Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by Hassan Zaid in our Teacher Mindset Matters. But actually, Hassan doesn't have a teaching background. And Hassan is a doctor, but also he's a medical advocacy manager. And when I met him about 2 weeks ago, I was really amazed by his mental resilience because he works in South Sudan and he works in some challenging situations where people face war, health crises, and really just daily uncertainty. And I was impressed when you shared your stories, like how mentally resilient you are. And what I would love to do, Hassan, today is to really share your story with all the teachers that I have in my community for them to learn what they can take from your mental first aid kit and what they can use in their daily teaching. So, Hassan, nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good. So basically, what I would love to start with is really just to ask you what your daily life looks like or looked like when you were in South Sudan, facing all the challenges you face and tough situations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stefania. So basically, you have to understand that the environment of South Sudan generally is quite harsh. When I say harsh, it's also from a climatic point of view. It's also from a security point of view. And in the midst of all of that, you have to basically maintain somewhat of a normalcy. Um, And in that sense, maintaining a routine, habit was very important. So as a result of that, I would, try to have good sleep hygiene, go to bed every night at 10, wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, go do my gym in the morning, have breakfast at the exact same time. Um, And yeah, before going to sleep every night, I would do my daily meditations, which were absolutely key. And then in the midst of all of this, whenever we'd find time, we would have sporting sessions or sporting events. So I would regularly play football, volleyball, basketball, frisbee, and yeah, do all of that to in order to maintain somewhat of a good mental health in the midst of everything that was going around.
So basically, there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos around you, and I would say a lot of danger as well. And what helped you stay sane, mentally resilient was your routine that you had every day. Is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Hmm. So, how could you stay mentally resilient being around so many people who were suffering and there was war? What was this kind of like secret, or maybe what was happening there behind the scenes for you?
I think whilst the war was in different parts of the country, of course, a part of it had also spilled into Juba, which is the capital where we were, and we were at times faced with the uncertainty of maybe if things become too volatile, then what needs to be done. So we underwent quite a few drills as well as to where the safe room is, what do we use to evacuate,
Mm.
uh, what many people would, for example, have previously done their driving test so that, if push comes to shove and we all have to leave in Land Cruiser, then, you need to be able to drive that V8. And yeah, so, and also at different points in time, this has happened to MSF, for example, in Khartoum, in Sudan, when things became volatile. They became volatile very, very quickly, and not everyone had a chance to react quickly.
Mm.
So people would just, found what they could, and they escaped the war.
Mm.
So so in the midst of it, you we did have to somewhat remain prepared, but at the same time also make sure that we are also acting normal, because this is, at the end of the day, a lot of this was business as usual for the local population. And if you are frantically at an edge all the time, it doesn't really help either your cause or what you're there to do. So whilst being prepared, you also have to, maintain a sense of normalcy.
Mm. So basically, you did have an evacuation plan and like what would need to do in case of emergency, but at the same time, you were trained how to be responding to situations and not reacting. So responding with a calm mind and clear mind. Um, and I often mention to our teachers that every teacher should have teacher mental first aid kit. So I guess you have your mental first aid kit, and you have different maybe tools, habits, as you mentioned, routines or practices inside it. So if you could share a few, maybe three things that you have in your mental first aid kit that many teachers would benefit from.
Yeah, so first and foremost, let me just also mention that I am someone who has historically suffered from anxiety for a long period of time. And of course, with that, I did have to historically develop coping mechanisms, which included, deep breathing, meditation exercises, and I've been practicing them for a long, long time. And of course, once you come towards a sense of normalcy, you tend to forgo all of that. But um, in a place where you things can become volatile very quickly,
Mm,
you have to actively practice that state of mindfulness in order to prevent anything, and in order to make sure that if push comes to shove, you at least are in a space where you can immediately put your hand down in your toolbox and get something. So, for example, these breathing exercises, the daily meditations that I would do, I mean, for sure, they were really helpful. And then, most importantly, maintaining sleep hygiene, sleeping on time, waking up on time, and maintaining that impeccable routine
mm,
makes it so much easier for your brain to be able to focus on other stuff when some of these stuffs become somewhat of a routine.
mm,
So your brain doesn't need to exert a lot of energy in for example, going to the gym in the morning, because if you've made it a habit, then it's a very small amount. You basically do it automatically, naturally. But building that initial routine is very important. And I
mm.
must say that I had a much better routine when I was there than when I am here. You
Wow.
do struggle oftentimes in different situations. Uh, but yeah, also maybe it was because it was pressure of an external environment which forced me to take measures which could be somewhere, one can say, are driven by survival instincts to be better
Mm.
prepared.
So that's very interesting what you mentioned. And these are basic techniques, but we forget about them. So, like, we all breathe, but do we breathe consciously? Do we have this as a breath practice every day? Or you mentioned sleep. We all sleep, but maybe what is the mental hygiene before going to bed? Or how many hours do we allow ourselves to sleep? And I know there are some teachers who over prepare and sometimes prepare too much so that they don't get enough sleep at the expense of having these lessons prepared. You also mentioned the gym, which is so important to get this healthy exercise, and then meditations. And interestingly, that you follow it more there than you follow it now. because you had this routine there and you knew that if you had this mindset foundation, then you would be more likely to deal with these situations in a healthier, more effective, and peaceful way. So that is very interesting, Hassan. And also, I was just wondering, can everybody do this type of job that you do, or were there people
I
who
hon Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not that difficult, to be
Mhm.
honest. It's it's the fear of moving outside a comfort zone most of the time, which which presents itself as something which is maybe extraordinary, but once you start to live in a place which is very much outside the comfort zone, um, it it starts to become easy and starts to come in naturally. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's as difficult for me as it probably was, and it's a similar learning curve for others as well.
Mhm. So, if there were people who didn't follow this or who gave up, was it because of the mindset or it was something else? Or they just felt like I cannot handle this anymore?
There were some people who for sure felt quite a bit frustrated.
Mm.
Perhaps they had different expectations of the mission itself, of what they were supposed to be doing there. So, in that sense, if there is not a good level of managing your own expectations, firstly, and then managing your reaction as a result of whatever changes that are approaching. Um, yeah, so for instance, I had a very different way of approaching things. I'm very much influenced by Wu Wei, which is a Laotian philosophy of, riding the flow of life, which is, I mean, come what may, there are things which are always going to be beyond my control, and I will never like it. But, me being angry about that situation or frustrated isn't going to change anything, isn't going to help anyone. So why bother with that level of angst?
Mm.
So in that sense, that really helped me quite a bit.
So basically, you couldn't control what situations would be happening in that part of the world, but what you were in control was your emotions, your response to it. And there were some people who responded in a better way than other people. So they were kind of like more mentally ready and prepared to face such situations.
Yes.
Um, and, I was also wondering, out of everything that you experienced, and you've experienced a lot, what was one of the most challenging things you had to go through? And then when you look back at it, maybe what was the gift you found in that situation, even though it was a very challenging one?
I think the most important thing that you come across after every single challenging situation is your ability to realize how resilient you can be.
Mm.
Um, and that experience in itself is worthwhile in that sense that when a similar situation arises or a tougher situation arises next time, deep down inside your mind, you have already lived a challenging situation once
Mm.
and you develop this intrinsic ability to convince yourself that you can walk past this again, that you've
Mm.
been in challenging positions before and you've come out of them on top, and hopefully you can come out of other future challenges or this new challenge in a much better, more productive way.
So basically, it's this gift of knowledge that you know whatever happens, you can deal with it because you've already dealt with so many other things. So, kind of like looking back at what I have already managed, achieved, or dealt with, and that gives you the sense of strength that I can deal with this one as well. I like this one because we have a lot of teachers that we suggest and we help them become independent and start their teaching businesses. And when you start a teaching business, it's not easy at all, especially at the very beginning. So once they get outside their comfort zone, they start growing, but at the same time, there is fear because they've never done it before. So very often we say to them, okay, maybe you haven't been an entrepreneur, but there are a lot of skills which are transferable that you already used in your classroom, or maybe even when you had children, when you had some other projects. So look at all those skills, you adopt it, and just use those skills as an entrepreneur. So basically, what you're saying, like, we should just look at what we have already managed, and this gives us more courage and strength to deal with more.
Yeah.
Mm. So, what would be maybe one mindset tip or another tool you would love teachers to take into their first aid kit, mental first aid kit, from your own experience? So, like, if they can just take one thing, what would you say?
If it is just one thing, I would say it's it's meditating and it's trying to understand what's going on inside your own mind
Mm.
and then making sure that it's aligned with what's happening on the outside. And if anything, actively tries to make the surrounding, the world, a better place rather uh, than acting in a manner which is self-detrimental, not helping anyone. So it's only with that sort of an alignment will you find a bit of a purpose, and with purpose comes a lot of this motivation to do whatever you want to do.
Mm. So basically, to have the awareness of
Yeah.
what's going on inside our mind. And then this awareness should help us become better human beings where we can contribute to the society around us. And very often is this awareness that is lacking, that we are not even aware and we are reacting every day to all sorts of situations. I really appreciate Hassan that I was able to speak with you, especially with someone like you who works on a daily basis in very challenging situations. And I know your situation is not the same as to the teacher situation, but there are a lot of similarities, and a lot of teachers face a lot of stress every day in the classroom when they give their best to their students. So it was very valuable, and I'm sure teachers will appreciate these tips from you. Anything else you would like to mention at the end, Hassan?
Mm. Yeah, and I've already mentioned about finding your purpose. What I would like to recommend is a book called Why by Simon Sinek, which is Know
Why?
Your Why.
Know your why. So, Simon.
Um, yeah, it's an amazing book which really helps you. I mean, if you can figure out your why, uh, that makes life so much more easier to live.
Hmm. So let's figure out our whys so that we have
Mhm.
easier and more enjoyable lives.
Yes,
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you so much.
thank you.